Detective Pikachu is almost here, and we just can't wait to see what our favourite Pokemon will look like in live action form on the big screen. We've seen dozens and dozens of Pokemon in the trailers of the movie already, some that look exactly like their video game and anime counterparts, and some that aren't even close. Welcome back to the Binger, guys. Today we're going to be comparing some original Pokemon to their Detective Pikachu versions. The similarities and differences will shock you. Who better to start with than the titular character Pikachu? But this isn't just any Pikachu. In Detective Pikachu, our favourite electric mouse is based off of the character in the game of the same name. In the game Detective Pikachu, we see Pikachu with a detective hat, jacket, and even a magnifying glass. We see all of this in movie Pikachu as well, but we never saw him wearing a jacket. It's just a hat and a magnifying glass. Just like in the movie, the Pikachu in the game can talk, but unlike the one in the movie, this one doesn't have a mouth on him. It's a shame that Ryan Reynolds couldn't be the voice actor for the video game Pikachu, but we can't get everything we want. As you can see, there's only a few differences between video game Pikachu and movie Pikachu. Of course, there is the fairiness, but if you look closely at their eyes, there's a big difference. The original Pikachu never shows the whites of his eyes, but we definitely see them in the movie Pikachu. It's probably done to add more realism to the character, since this is a live action movie and all. But it's a pretty significant difference. We can't wait to see the witty mouse on the big screen. While he's not the mascot of the entire Pokemon franchise like Pikachu, Charizard is one of the most popular Pokemon of all time. In fact, back in the day, many Pokemon Red and Blue players chose Charmander as their starter simply because of how awesome his fully evolved form Charizard looked, and it's great to see that he looks just as amazing on the big screen. While the original Charizard looks more like a smooth-skinned, fire-breathing flying lizard, the one we see in Detective Pikachu is a bit more reptilian, and by a bit more, we mean a lot more. It's full of scales and looks way meaner than its video game counterpart. It's an interesting mix of cool and scary, but we really like it. At first, we didn't know how to feel about this Charizard, but it quickly grew on us. The colours of the Pokemon in the movie are spot on, from the teal wings to the yellow underbelly and even the green eyes. We expect movie Charizard to be just as strong as his video game version, but full of weaknesses. Don't be surprised if Pikachu finds a way to take the beast down. After all, Charizard is weak to electric type attacks. Let's be honest, other than Pikachu being voiced by Ryan Reynolds and making us laugh in every trailer, Mr. Mime completely stole the show with his interesting game of charades. Like all mimes, he doesn't use his words, but his actions to let us know what he's trying to say. And you know what they say, actions do speak louder than words. Compared to the original Mr. Mime, the one in Detective Pikachu is vastly different. In the movie, Mr. Mime's body is very odd looking and disproportionate. Like seriously, look at the size of his head. It's huge. The original Mr. Mime has a much smaller head, and while it's still an awkward Pokemon in the games and the anime, it's not nearly as weird looking. Also, the face of the Pokemon is much more realistic compared to the original version, which is done so he could show us some hilarious facial expressions. That being said, the Pokemon is supposed to look a bit odd in Detective Pikachu because he's there for comic relief. At the end of the day, it's easier to laugh at something that both looks and acts funny. You just take one look at Mr. Mime and burst out laughing. So it's safe to say they nailed it in Detective Pikachu.
Enough of the games. Say it. Just say it!
Jigglypuff is another fan favourite Pokemon, and what's not to like about this cute pink ball of fluff? She has a beautiful voice and likes to take a few naps throughout the day. As far as we're concerned, she's living the dream. But once some people saw how this Pokemon looked on the big screen, they wished they were in a dream. Many Pokemon fans weren't happy with the way Jigglypuff was portrayed on screen. She's one of the cutest and most lovable Pokemon out there, but in Detective Pikachu, she looks completely different. The Pokemon in the movie doesn't even look remotely like the original. For starters, she's so much fairier than we expected. Also, if you take a look at the inside of Jigglypuff's ears, yes, that's a weird thing to look at, but trust us, we're onto something. You'll notice that they're pink in the movie, but they're black on the original. Heck, even the eyes are much different. But at least they kept the colour intact. The Jigglypuff in Detective Pikachu still likes to sing, so at least they kept that trait from the original Pokemon. There's no denying Warner Bros. Tried something different with their Jigglypuff, and it's taken fans quite some time to accept it. Greninja is another one of the coolest Pokemon out there, and just like Charizard, players picked Froakie as their starter in Pokemon X and Y just because of how awesome Greninja looks. Take a frog, turn him into a ninja, and boom. you've got yourself a Greninja. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, yes, that scarf isn't actually a scarf, it's the Pokemon's tongue. Yep, his tongue is his scarf. Pretty neat design, eh? He's fast, he looks awesome, he can chuck throwing stars made out of water. There's pretty much nothing this Pokemon can't do, and we're very happy with how he's been recreated for Detective Pikachu. It's essentially a spitting image of the original Pokemon in live action form. The colours are just perfect, with blue, grey, light blue, beige and pink in all the right places. The eyes look a bit different and they're more realistic in the movie, like with most Pokemon, but it's still a really good rendition. The textured tongue is also a nice touch that adds even more realism to the character. We'd honestly say it's the best live action version of a Pokemon we've seen in Detective Pikachu. It's that good. If only Jigglypuff looked as good as Greninja. Ludicolo isn't one of the most well-known Pokemon in the franchise, but after getting a good look at him in the trailers, we just had to include him in this video. All we have to say is that we're shocked with how the Pokemon has turned out, and we mean it in a good way. Well, kinda. We're not gonna lie, we were taken aback by how different Ludicolo looked in Detective Pikachu compared to how he looked in the video games and the anime. But it quickly grew on us, just like with Charizard. While the original Ludicolo has never worked behind the counter serving coffee to customers, we're happy he's doing something other than getting beaten by flying, poison, and bug-type Pokemon for a change. We've said it many times already about different Pokemon, but in Detective Pikachu, Ludicolo is so fairy. At least we expected it this time. Yes, the original Pokemon was fairy, but we still didn't expect it to have this much hair. We also love how detailed the plant is on his head. This duck plant hybrid looks great on the big screen. It's a good mix of cute and realistic, which is exactly what we wanted with every adorable Pokemon. Just like Ludicolo, Snubbull isn't an immediately recognizable Pokemon. But we're not gonna lie, it looked really interesting in the trailer. The original Snubbull resembles a very mean looking bulldog. Other than its pink and blue colours, there is nothing cute about this Pokemon. But while it looks incredibly mean and ferocious, it's actually one of the sweetest and kindest Pokemon you'll ever meet. In the trailer, we see this loyal Snubbull accompanying Detective Yoshida. Like any dog, it doesn't matter how mean and angry they look, they'll be loyal and kind to the person they're most attached to, which is always their owner. Compared to the original Snubbull, the movie version is quite different. For starters, just like Mr. Mime, it has a huge head, but at least it's not so realistic that it's goofy looking. It resembles the original, but it's just much bigger. The colours are very similar to the original Pokemon, but the pink seems to be just a little lighter. The black tips of its ears and the pale blue neck and body spots are essentially the same. The eyes are spot on and give Snubbull a 24/7 I'm annoyed look, which is perfect. We hope to see much more of Snubbull in the movie. Lickitung is one of the weirdest Pokemon out there, and for good reason. As his name suggests, he likes to lick things with his tongue, but he doesn't just have any tongue. He has a nearly 7-foot long tongue, which has sticky saliva that could pretty much attach itself to anything and has a paralyzing effect on both humans and other Pokemon. Yep, that's gross, but we did tell you guys he is one of the weirdest Pokemon, and with a name like Lickitung, what did you expect? In Detective Pikachu, we got to see Lickitung's incredibly long tongue in live action form, and it was even weirder than the original. It's so detailed, textured, and looks really wet, which is just a bit gross, but again, we expected that. While that was incredibly accurate, so is the size of this Pokemon. While the original one looks big, he's actually only 3'11", so seeing him smaller than people sitting down actually makes sense. The body markings of the Pokemon are spot on, and even the eyes are, which is rare since Warner Brothers typically went for realism in the Pokemon models. Either way, there's nothing Lickitung won't lick, and we're sure this will play out on the big screen. Psyduck is one of the derpiest Pokemon of all time, and his out-to-lunch personality has been front and center in both the video games and the anime. Psyduck appears unaware and vacant, but it's all a ruse to lure his enemies in and use his psychic powers to take them down. He always has a headache, and the worse it gets, the stronger his powers become. In fact, we saw Psyduck create a huge explosion in one of the Detective Pikachu trailers, which is reminiscent of Misty's Psyduck doing the same in the anime, so it is possible we'll see these traits in the movie as well. Speaking of the movie, Psyduck is the sidekick of the female lead character Lucy, and he looks a lot like his video game and anime counterparts. The vacant look is still there, and his beak looks great, even though it's a little darker in colour than the original. His eyes look hilarious, so we're happy they kept that from the source material, and they didn't give him too many feathers either, so we're quite happy with how Psyduck turned out. Warner Brothers stayed true to the original, and we thank them for that. We really do. Mewtwo is many people's favourite legendary Pokemon, so we were very happy when we saw it in one of the trailers for Detective Pikachu. Historically, Mewtwo despises humans because he was created through an experiment where he was the subject of painful gene splicing procedures that really ticked him off. He broke free from the lab, and the rest is history. We have no idea where he came from in Detective Pikachu, but there's a good chance he escaped captivity in some way, shape or form. While Mew is a very cute and cuddly Pokemon, as you can tell, Mewtwo is not. Even in live action form, he's still more cool than cute. There are a lot of differences between the original Mewtwo and the photorealistic one. We've mentioned that a lot of the live action Pokemon have been getting bigger heads, but Mewtwo's is actually smaller than the original. He is still absolutely jacked though. We don't know if it's just the lighting, but his colours look completely off as well. Mewtwo is supposed to be white and have a purple belly and tail, but it looks like his belly is pink and it slowly transitions to a purple tail, which is a big difference. Whatever the case may be, Mewtwo looks incredible and we just can't wait for Detective Pikachu to hit theatres. And those are what the original Pokemon look like compared to their live action movie counterparts. Are you looking forward to seeing Detective Pikachu? Is your favourite Pokemon going to be in the movie? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to The Binger for more great content. Thanks for watching and see you next time.